Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. What's up, everybody?
What's up?
Good morning.
Fresh back from a whirlwind tour at the Tampa Pro.
It was an awesome show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great show. I had a good time there. I had 3 people competing in the Masters division, which was fun. It was wild. The Masters show went way slower than the Classic or the Open, which was interesting. They seemed to be working the Masters guys harder than they did the other people. But we didn't finish up until almost midnight at the Masters. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah, that's super late. What time did the show start?
Late. These are evening shows. They started at 4.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't finish up until late.
That's tough.
And they did for the Masters division, they did the prejudging finals back to back. With the Open guys, they took a little bit of a break, like hour and a half, 2 hours. It wasn't anything crazy. 2 hours, I think. I like the shows though that run prejudging and finals back to back. It just makes it easier. The really long break between prejudging and finals is pretty rough on the athlete.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. How'd your people do?
My Classic guy won. He got first.
Nice.
My 60s guy got 4th, and my bodybuilder got 4th. So not bad for my
Dave
first.
Got 4th place, huh?
What's that?
Dave got 4th place after getting his pro card just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And awesome. I argued he should have been 3rd, but yeah, he looked great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Was it all of them their first pro show?
My female bodybuilder, no, she's competed a couple times before.
Cool.
But Jamie's hilarious. I'm gonna embarrass him on here, but my Classic guy, he's been with me, I guess, 4 years now. We just did a local show, and I had to like talk him into doing nationals, and then he won at nationals, and then went out and won his first pro show. And he was like, I'm just gonna do one show and I'll be out. And then he's like won every fucking time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I remember seeing him when he first came to me, and I'm like, dude, I think you might be able to turn pro. You got a pretty good physique. And he was honestly, he was the best poser in the entire fucking show. Out of everybody, I thought. So if you can, he's not the biggest guy. He's 155, 160 pounds. Everybody was bigger than him than he beat. But if you can pose, you got good shape and symmetry, and you're in condition, you got shot.
Yeah. Now, this might be a dumb question, but how do they do the classics for Masters? Is it still just like open height versus weight?
Nope.
And age? Or
nope. Everybody's in together, man.
So all ages are in together?
No, they do age groups at the pro level, but there are no divisions within those age groups. It doesn't matter your height or your weight. Everybody competes against everybody.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So you just have your cap. You got to get in under your cap for your height. And then the rest of it's just yeah, man, you're going up against the bigger dudes.
Yeah. Well, in a division where they're kind of not looking for the mass monsters, I mean, you got an opportunity to kind of stand out if your shape's popping and you really peak well. So that's kind of cool. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, it was very cool. I need to post some pictures. I didn't post pictures of them, but I got everybody shredded, so it's the best you can do. The Open was very interesting. But watching the Open, it was Lucas says, Paul, your pictures were top notch. You should consider getting a camera and starting.
Your pictures are really good. Like you always, I think it's because you're tall. You can see above the crowd.
I was a professional photographer for almost 20 years. I owned a wedding photography business. So I've had a little experience. No, I'm done with photography, man. You think coaching bodybuilding's hard? Holy fuck, photography. I talked to the guy that owned Gilco. Met him there. We talked for like 30 minutes. The dude said he has been at a show every weekend since March. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Brutal lifestyle, man. He works his balls off. They do quality work. Their stuff is excellent. But so much of photography is just actually just framing, making sure that you have the picture framed correctly. I snapped them with my shitty iPhone. It wasn't anything crazy. But yeah,
16 is a pretty good camera, though. It
Yeah.
does some pretty cool things.
it's not anything compared to my A6 or whatever it is that I have, or my any of my professional stuff.
The lighting looked really good at the show. I mean, at least in the pictures that I saw
The
online.
Gilco guy said he talked them into letting him do the lighting.
That would be why. I mean, I was really impressed with the lighting. Just looked so good, even
I
in
told
the
him-
social media posts.
I told him, dude, you got to let you do the Olympia.
Seriously. Oh my gosh, that was the worst lighting of all time.
Oh, it was horrendous. Yeah, the lighting was excellent. What they did, it's a little thing you can do, a little trick in photography. They did up backlighting where you have the lighting angle up at the subject, and what it does is creates like a halo around you, so you separate from the background. And you can see it in the pictures. It was really, 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 really well done. He did an excellent job, and it was even more impressive in person being there. But the backlighting was really good.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, I mean, you can. This is just with my iPhone. It wasn't anything great, but you can see it. Like, if you look, you can see see how they have like this halo around them.
Mm-hmm.
That's from the backlighting, and it separates you from the background, so you stand out from the background.
Yeah, it
But
looks
really
good.
well done.
The background looks different from last year. They must have changed it up. I think last year was all orange.
Yeah, no, it looked great. Now, I would say if you wore a red suit,
Mhm.
might be a little disruptive, but I probably wouldn't have worn a red suit against that background, but it seems to be okay. There was still, it always perplexes me. There were still some guys, even at the pro level, that do their own tans. And I think John did his own tan, but usually the guys that do their own tans don't look right. I think John's looks okay.
Yeah, what did you think overall, Paul, of the Open?
Being there in person, Jordan was just head and shoulders above everybody else.
Oh, the size of his legs is just remarkable.
He's not the biggest guy when you're up close to him, but he was just so conditioned, just incredibly conditioned. His posing was, for the most part, on point. There was a couple little things I would have tweaked with the posing, but whatever he and Chris did, they just absolutely nailed his peak.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely nailed his peak. I mean, he was just, people get bent on the photos. Like, I heard people saying that Quentin should have beat him, and Quentin looked like a miniature version of Samson up there.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just so fucking big,
structure.
but he was soft. I don't know a better way to put it. I mean, just if you look at him from the back,
but I'll give it.
I mean, you can see it. He was pretty blurry from the back.
I would give it to Quint, though. I mean, it's impressive to see him coach himself and still be far improved in every facet from his last showings there with Matt.
There were some rumors flying around that he had pulled out, and then he re-entered the show. I don't know. There was definitely some. I don't know. I don't know if any of that was true, but I did see him hammering a bunch of food 2 days out, so I was like, well, maybe dude's done. I don't know, but whatever he did, it worked. he was full.
Yeah.
I would have I don't know. This is always the game you play going into shows. And this is just my opinion on it. I think the safer approach is always to be dry and hard. But if you're a big guy like him, maybe the better approach is to be aggressive with being, just go lean into the size game and just try to outsize everybody.
Yeah.
So I mean, but most people aren't going to win with the chasing fullness. I think most people are just going to look worse, especially like amateur competitors at the local level. Like I get the guys all the time when I'm prepping them that always think they should have been fuller on stage. And I'm like, bro, you didn't lose because you didn't eat enough gummy bears.
Right.
That's not why. If you need more size, the off season's the time to put on that size. It's not 2 days
Backstage.
not 2 days before the show. There's really nothing you can do at that point. I mean, there's little things. I mean, you can make a couple % difference, but usually when guys are chasing fullness going into peak week, they just end up making themselves look worse.
Yeah. Well, if anyone's going to be able to play the size game, it would have been Quentin, and I'm sure back of his mind, he didn't want to step on stage completely depleted and flat like he was last time. I mean, he was never going to be the most conditioned guy when you're going up against John Jewett, and what you've seen out of Jordan, and that Amir kid from Germany is something else. He's always peeled to the bone. Play to your strengths. I kind of feel like a great structure, fill out real well. Don't rely on play outside the game.
I don't know what John's weight came in at, but he looked a bit smaller than what he has in the past. But I mean, his conditioning was on point. He just ran up against a killer lineup. I don't know. I mean, I think John looked about as good as he could look.
Yeah, his abs washed out a little bit as he posed along.
Yeah, I had him in. I thought he was in. Could have made an argument for him to be in third, but I certainly can see why they put him in fourth. I mean, it was just a tough lineup. It was a really tough lineup. The one I was perplexed with was Justin Shier. I don't know what happened, man. He looked horrible.
He always nails his conditioning too, and they really missed the mark this time.
He was flat. He was soft. He didn't look that big. He looks big on Instagram, but compared to the guys on stage, he didn't look big. I don't know what happened. Something went sideways.
Well, I think he doesn't have the back to compete with some of those guys. I mean, he looked pretty good from the front, but when you turned around, it was pretty obvious. You could see he was lacking.
Man, there in person, he did not look good.
Yeah.
When he walked out next to Stu, who's just a monster, makes everybody look small.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was in third call out. I mean, it was
just third call out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Wow. Yeah, it was not a good look. I mean, I admire him for getting out there and getting up on stage, but I would have been tempted just to say nope. I think once you sign the contract for those pro shows, there's no backing out, though.
Yeah,
they fine you.
You could tell he wasn't happy to be there after that.
Well, that certainly doesn't make the look any better when you're not happy with it.
Sure.
I mean, the guy that I really like as far as aesthetics is Patrick Moore. I mean, he has the most beautiful physique out of anybody up there, but he just wasn't in shape. I think he was coaching himself, is what I heard. I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on that. The dude that won Classic, holy fuck, man. That guy.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Shape. Yeah.
Nas. Oh my God.
It's like the tiniest waist I've ever seen on a human.
I mean, Jesus Christ, man. That guy's going to be a problem at the Olympia.
Yeah.
And look at his legs.
I think he just turned pro last year as well.
Ooh, man, look at that waist. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. It's like it disappears into nothing.
Look at his glutes and hamstrings, and then the quad sweep. When you have quad sweep from behind,
Mhm.
That's when you know you're on point. I mean, but man, I prejudging, I thought it could have been close, but then like I started looking at the pictures more, and then I was like, nah, man, he pretty much blew the other dude out of the water. Posing could have been a little better. There was some stuff I probably would have tweaked on the posing. Like he's not really, see how he's not really opening up on the side chest, kind of making him.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts when guys do that. They make themselves look small. I mean, it's just a little
Twist more.
nuance thing. He needs to twist more, yeah, and get that back delt wrapped around a little bit more. But I mean, when you're big enough, you can be a little bit off on your posing, and it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, he kind of needs to sit into the pose a little bit more too. I think. I feel like his leg would look a little bit more of a sweep if he like settled into it.
Front double by, like, see how he's kind of leaning forward a little too much, and has his and has his chest down. What he's doing is crunching down on his abs.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a choice, but you know, this is just nitpicky. I mean, he looked fucking great. Somebody said Patrick's coaching himself. Yeah, I could tell. He needs a higher coach. I don't know how anybody coaches themselves, to be honest with you. I couldn't do it.
Well, and if the top guys aren't coaching themselves, that kind of says something about the ability to coach oneself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these were all the pictures I took being there. Yeah, it was funny because they kept yelling at us not to take pictures, and I still took them anyway. I'm like, you don't fucking kick me out. You can kick me out. I'll blast you guys on social media. I don't understand these shows not letting people take pictures and video. I'm like, come on, man. Really,
Yeah, it's like free advertising.
It's free fucking advertising. I get between all my platforms, I get like close to 10 million views a month. I'm advertising your show for you. I'm talking up your show for you. Like, come on, man. Seriously. Oh, that's my client, Kevin. But yeah, they had the let's see, the scorecards. It's pretty bad. These were the official pictures from the NPC. I think mine were better. It looks like these are just screenshots from the video.
What do you think of that monster, Joey Palacio?
He looked great.
Yeah.
Is that the guy from California?
Yeah.
The freak. Yeah, that guy's incredible.
Yeah, he's very Jay Cutler-esque with his shape.
Mm.
Yeah, he looked great. But yeah, I mean, this is you can see here how Quentin's kind of soft.
Mm-hmm.
His abs are washed out. The scorecards. Let me show the scorecards. It's funny. People are like people get emotionally tied to this, but I mean, it was the judges. I mean, you can see at finals they gave Jordan straight ones and Quentin straight twos. So I mean, it was unanimous that Quentin was in second. So it wasn't even close.
Well, he split by 1 point at prejudging, but yeah, difference.
Yeah, I mean, I to me it was pretty clear. And then Joey was straight threes. So, but when you see that's pretty. Where did Shier end up?
He was 13th.
I was surprised this Chinese dude didn't finish higher. I really liked how he looked, man. I mean, I thought he could have been on the first call out, but what do I know?
Crazy quads. He had a tiny waist too. Yeah, he looked real good.
I mean,
I like his physique a lot. I also like that kind of like mean samurai face he makes when he poses.
Yeah,
it's got kind of like that Hente vibe to it.
Yeah, I gotta find a picture of him. I mean, he is a freakazoid. I mean, he's just got beautiful proportions. Here, let me pull him up.
And like a 27-inch waist.
Yeah,
I mean, he looked great. I'm like, how was he not in the first call out?
That is
But I
really
guess,
surprising.
yeah, I mean, I guess there was something they didn't like about him.
He's got great skin. Like his skin texture is beautiful.
That's called being in your 20s.
Well,
It is, but even some of the young guys, like they don't. I mean, I kind of look at like Nick. Nick doesn't have the best
Yeah,
skin.
no, he doesn't. I guess he could have been a little harder. I don't know.
I was gonna
if you look
just
at his back poses. His back's a little soft too. It's not
Yeah,
not
he
carved out.
he could have been a little harder, I guess. Yeah, his back's a little watery. Now that I look at it, but I just like I was just drawn to his yeah, he's definitely a little soft. But his shape was really, it was cool seeing some of the Masters guys out there in the open and doing okay, hanging with the dudes. There's a couple of the Masters guys that went out there. Let me see if I find the Gilco stuff here. Do we care about the other divisions? I don't know. Patrick, I love Patrick's shape. Patrick just has such a great shape.
Yeah.
He was soft.
He's got big arms, but they're kind of not much detail to the arms.
Well, you know what causes that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what does that. Not saying anything. You read between the lines, read what you will.
He could be harder.
Yeah.
No, he was not in shape. I mean, this looks like about 4 weeks out, 5 weeks out. It's pretty watery. Wonder what happened with him and Cito. I know they kind of had a blowout. Yeah, he's got a beautiful shape, but he was not. Yeah, he was not in great shape. Let me see if I can find.
I mean, I've heard Patrick's a little bit of a mental case, so I don't know if he gets too close to a show. And
What? You mean bodybuilders lose their mind going into shows?
I know, who would have thought, right?
Well, that never happens.
The only thing I could say with Jordan here was just a little bit of little water in the abdominals there, and that's really it. Looks great. He held his waist in pretty well.
Gosh.
Yeah, beautiful. Maybe more triceps on some of his shots, but that's about it.
Paul, do you think the humidity had anything to do with that? 'Cause I feel like several of the guys, I mean, like John Jewett, same thing. Like his midsection was definitely a little bit watery.
It was cool
So it was,
down
like,
there.
late in the day,
The weather,
or was it?
the weather, yeah, the weather was nice. It was in the 80s. So it wasn't a weather issue. No, I think it's called, well, I mean, it is late in the day, but I think it's called dudes get, I saw a lot of guys hitting the breakfast buffet when I was there. I think a lot of these big dudes get obsessed with flattening. Oh, there's Ryan. Sorry, Ryan.
That's all right.
I think a lot of these big dudes just get obsessed with flattening out, and they see the scale going down and they fucking panic.
Yeah.
That's what I think happens.
See, I'm weird. I always get nervous of spilling. Like I feel like the tighter I get, the better I look all the time, and you sacrifice a little bit of fullness for it.
Well, I mean, it's a fine line to walk, right? I mean, you can go to local shows if you want to see what bad peaking looks like. Go to local shows, or bad preps look like. You might get 2 or 3 dudes that nail it, and those are usually the guys that are winning or placing high. But pretty much everybody else is either over dieted and they look like they escaped a forced labor camp, or they look like they're about 8 weeks out and lost a bet with a friend.
Yeah.
There's not much in between. It's so yeah, it's so that's what you see. But yeah, it's really, like doing this mentorship with AJ, one of the big things, Bobby Wall said that Stu made a last minute decision that backfired. Yeah. What bodybuilder No, bodybuilders don't ever do that, do they? They don't panic at the last minute and do something stupid. I'd like to know what he did, Bobby. What, if you can tell us in the comments section, what last minute mistake?
Yeah, he did a long post on Instagram this morning, explaining that how he blew it. His words were he shit the bed, and he didn't want anybody to give him any, consolation messages.
Yeah, I think he said he thought he held his water too hard and just was dehydrated and flattened out or something like that.
I mean, it's always a fine line to walk, but going back to like what AJ was saying, I think the big thing is just you get fat free early. So I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I feel like I've been nailing my preps this year. My guys have been, for the most part, coming in as good as you can come in, but it's I think you got to get fat free, and then you need to back off a little bit coming into the show. If you can be ready 10 to 14 days out, it's almost being ready too early is almost a problem too, because it's really hard to maintain. But be ready early, 2 to 3 weeks early, back off a little bit going into the show, and then that last week should be about filling you out early, then drying you out. And if you fill out early, then and spread that fill out up, I've been spreading it out over a couple of days now, and then you got a little bit of leeway to dry out and fix mistakes if they happen, clean up a little bit, and you can tweak things in that last 24 hours with small changes. Anything radical, anytime when I hear people doing radical things in the last 48 hours, it's not going to end well usually.
Yeah, when you're there early, I kind of look at it like boxes that you're checking off for some people. If you can check them off early, obviously be as fat-free as possible 2 to 3 weeks early, get them fresh earlier. And then when it comes to show day, you get less variables that you have to worry about, or, playing it close. There's nothing worse than playing it close, trying to be 4 or 5 days out, hoping that everything's going to come together. That's pretty hard to do.
And a lot less fatigue in those last couple of weeks because you're not worried about whether or not you're gonna.
Well, you know what that translates to, messing up on the water. That means somebody took too many diuretics. That's if we want to translate that from bodybuilder to English.
It's hard to come back from that.
Oh, we did the diuretics. I've been there. I've done that.
Do you think it was a coach that did that, or did he do that himself?
I will tell you, it's almost never the coach.
Yeah, right. Which is why you have a coach, right? Because you're not thinking right, and you have to. You need a third party to actually make those decisions for you. The whole reason for a coach.
These pros, I mean, you have to be incredibly stubborn and strong-willed to make it to that level, I think. But it also can backfire on you. Yeah, he looked very, very flat and very depleted. It's not his best look.
That's not Stu.
Is it not?
No, that's 212.
Oh, Jesus Christ. My bad. Let me see if I can find him. I don't think did they have him up here?
I don't
he kind of looks like Stu.
I don't think on Gilco I saw one.
No, I mean, what I saw, he didn't look great.
If you go to his page, he's got some stage shots.
I mean, he didn't look terrible. I mean, he's a better bodybuilder than I am, so I have no room to critique.
I gotta say, I thought he looked good, and I was surprised that he did look so good. Seeing his pictures leading up to the show, right? I wasn't expecting.
That's the New York Pro. That's when he won the New York Pro.
Be right there.
Yeah, that one's a
crab shot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the best representation. Let me find
check tag photos. You might see some in there.
Let me see here. I think he was in these. Let's see here. Hang on, let me pull this up. I know there were some of these he was on. These are the first call outs. I really hate the NPC website. It's like from 1930.
so bad. It's the worst.
It's terrible. It's terrible. It's like GeoCities stuff.
Well, and it posts the worst pictures too. Like they post.
These are clearly not. These are screen caps from the video. Yeah. I can tell.
Yeah. Like they're not;
Is
those
it-
are not still shots. Yeah.
Oh, come on with the fucking ad. Give me a break, man. All right. Yeah. Yeah, they're, I don't know. Let me
Like
see
your
if
pictures are far better than those pictures.
my pictures from sitting 20 rows back with the
Yeah.
iPhone.
iPhone. Oh, someone
Hang on,
asked you what iPhone you have. before I
whatever
forget.
the iPhone Pro 16 Max.
All right. There you
Here's
go, Marty.
Stu. Let me pull him up. These are the NPC pictures, so take these. I don't want anybody to think these are Gilco. They're pretty terrible. Hang on. Let me share this tab. Give me a second here. I'm trying to pull this up. Here he is. These are terrible photos. Oh, come on, man. They always pop up in a new goddamn window.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a terrible website. NPC, if you hear me, redo your website.
Please.
Yeah, not a great look. For what that's worth.
Well, it was a top 10 look. I think he placed 9th.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I have no room to judge. Way better bodybuilder than me. Yeah, it's that flat and soft look. And usually that flat, soft look is when you carb up too much and try to use diuretics to clean it up. I don't know if that's what happened, but you know, that's usually what that is. Yeah, it's not a great look.
Yeah, you can tell he's in shape, but he's just the bottom manipulation is a bit off.
Yeah, I mean, you can see when people are fat free versus. I mean, and also like these big dudes, it's way harder to peak these big dudes than it is smaller guys. And then also these guys fucking panic too. They get obsessed with the scale. They all think they're flattening out. Well, all I can
A
say
lot
is
better in the morning than he did in the afternoon.
man, I don't know. Being there just he didn't look great. The masters were pretty impressive.
I thought that was. Did you see in person that Justin Savoy kid, the French Canadian kid that was like 6'2", 6'3"? I think he got like maybe 8th or 9th place.
Yeah, he is a big motherfucker.
Yeah, I didn't see any photos of him, but I've just seen his YouTube, and he was looking good. It's crazy to see guys that big, 6 foot plus, being able to step on stage around 300 pounds. So the amount of muscle they can carry is just wild.
I'm going to show you the 60s guys and my guy, and they were all in fucking better condition than the. Don't ask me how are the 60-year-old guys in better condition than most of the open dudes. That's the crazy thing. I guess when you're 60, the only thing you have going for you is getting shredded, right?
Well, I'm sure you've done a good job keeping them leaner in their off seasons. You try to keep these guys during their progressive seasons, relatively lean and not getting sloppy. And that makes a huge, huge difference of how you show up on stage.
Yeah.
I feel like you can dig deeper, starting in a better spot, as simple as that sounds.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to keep people a little leaner in their off season. Hang on, this is my guy, David. He's on the left.
That looks
Oh,
great.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is from the behind.
These are the over 60s.
Yeah, these are the 60s.
Wow.
The 60s bikini competitors, I sent them to Amy, were insane.
Yes.
Yeah, these
Shows what happens if you don't stop.
Yeah.
these are These are the over 60 guys.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was really happy with how David looked. I mean,
Yeah,
he was
great.
peeled. Yeah, he got 4th. So that was the top 4 there.
There's no small feat amongst those guys. They were all crazy ripped.
Yeah. Yeah, it was go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like no one's really talking about the Masters Olympia next week. It's like no one's really talking about it.
Yeah, our buddy Vinny is going to be there. I need to talk to Vinny after the show and see how he does. The guys that won the Masters overall, you have to win the Masters overall, you have to win the 40 division. Yeah, Chris, I saw Chris there. Chris looked great. Yeah, I talked to Chris. Chris is a good guy. I've competed with Chris a couple times. Chris and I have competed together. We were in the same class at Masters USA's a couple years ago, battled it out. It's always frustrating seeing guys up there doing well that I've been on stage with. Beat up and small and fucked up shoulder.
Only for the moment.
Only
Are you
for
still
the
thinking
moment.
you might try and do Tampa next year?
Yeah, I'm taking it one. I try to be more in the moment. I try not to get too ahead of myself. So I just want to get healthy first. That's the first step. Second step is to get myself get an off season in and see if I can put some size back on, and then if I can effectively do that, then go from there.
Well, I trained with Paul last week, and he can talk down if he wants, but he's still strong as an ox.
I'm nowhere near as strong as I was. I got it.
Mike, when?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask Mike when he's leaving for Europe.
The 12th, August 12th, yeah.
Next week, right? Where's that month? Yeah.
So I'll be shooting some gym videos in Europe and trying to keep it interesting.
Oh,
Won't just all be pictures of me eating cheat meals.
I would be. There would be no diet in Europe if I went.
I don't even. I can't even see a way that I could do one. Honestly, I mean, just the way the accommodations are going, and you don't know what food is going to be available over there. And,
you know what I do? Like kind
moderation is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'll fast and then just eat like one big fucking meal or 2 meals a day when I go on trips, and I usually come back lighter.
Yeah, that's my plan. 1 or 2 meals a day, and don't be ridiculous. And I'll be on the Retta and the SOU and everything while I'm there, so I won't have a ridiculous appetite or blow out too bad, so I can get a good start to my off season when I get back.
1 week's not gonna, or 10 days or whatever. It's not gonna
3
blow
weeks.
you up, man. 3 weeks. Okay,
3 weeks.
yeah, that might fuck you up. All right, Mike.
3 weeks.
Well,
I'm
I pretty
only
much
in Italy like the last week, so that's the one I'm most concerned about.
I pretty much have been eating whatever the fuck I want for the last 6 months, and somehow I still have abs.
Still rocking the 6-pack for sure.
I don't know. I can show you these over 60 competitors. This was insane to me. The women's masters in bikini. This was just nutty.
Wow.
That's figure. Wow.
Oh yeah. This was figure. Sorry. Yeah, this was. I don't know where the bikini competitors are at. I got to find that one. But yeah, I mean, these were women's masters.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I'm often impressed by the figure competitors in that age group. I think if you have that kind of dedication into that, I mean, some things, physiques are one of those things where I think as you get older, I mean, you don't get as big anymore, but I think you can get more defined. There's something to be said for that old muscle, well-developed tissue.
Well, especially for women. I mean, postmenopausal women, which most women in their 60s are going to be, are going to naturally have lower estrogen, they probably have an ability to more easily maintain a leaner physique and get that kind of detail to show through a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You lose your subcutaneous fat as you age too, so that's part of it also. You lose that baby fat.
Menopause is an advantage.
For getting super lean.
Never
What was
thought
it?
about it that way.
Dave Hughes, the guy who won the pro show at the Emerald Cup. He's been posting a lot about doing the Masters Olympia. There's some pretty great competitors going into that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. It'd be fun to have Vinny on when he gets back. Have hear him talk about what it's like in Japan. I've heard competing in Japan is a really amazing experience because they really love bodybuilding. So like they treat the athletes really well. And it's just every athlete I know says it's been a good experience to go to Japan.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy that went over there and competed in the Japan Pro, I think it was, he said. And he was telling me you were like a fucking celebrity.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm trying to get this video of my client Jamie posing, and it won't. I can't share it. He was really good.
How did Wendy do?
Wendy got fourth.
She's a beast. I worked out with her a few months ago. She's crazy strong.
She is 5 feet tall. She competed in women's bodybuilding, was 140 pounds, and was the smallest one on stage.
Nuts.
The woman that won was like 180, 190. Wow. In shape. Yeah, I'll try to pull a picture up of her too. Yeah, it was pretty fucking insane. Let me see if I can share this, but it was just a great experience overall. Here we go. Let me see if I can. This is probably not the best quality. Jamie did the Superman routine. It's kind of blurry. But this is my master's physique. Our classic physique guy.
Love it. Good posing.
Oh yeah, he's an excellent poser.
He's graceful.
Yeah, sorry the video is kind of cruddy, but
You look great.
yeah, it was.
Love it.
Yeah, he won the.
That's great.
He won the classic.
Now, how big is he, Paul, for size?
Jamie is 155.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's not the biggest guy. But he beat all the dudes that were bigger than him.
Oh yeah. That looks great. That's good posing.
Let me see if I can find a picture of Wendy who competed. Sorry to bore you guys with all the Masters competitors. I'm just proud of my guys that work the balls off. We'll get some questions here in just a second. So if you got questions, get them up here. Wendy looked great as well. It's just tough competition. She's going to compete again this week.
Oh, where?
I think Louisiana. Trying to find a picture of her. This one's Jamie. Hang on, yeah, I'll bring these two up. Sorry to keep you guys. I don't know. Like, I'd be curious to unpack with some of these guys. I want to talk to Chris at some point. Tuttle, get him on. If I can talk him in, because he's just been nailing home runs. Whatever he's doing is working.
Yeah, he
I like
worked with a couple friends of mine, and he's sharp as can be.
whatever. I know he's a big gut health guy.
Well, I think he's got a nutritional background, him and his wife, I believe, or dietitian's background.
Yeah, I mean he's and we know how important gut health is to getting your diet dialed in. Yeah, you can just see how much bigger these other ladies were than Wendy.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, she was in
Wow.
condition. I think she was the most shredded of all of them, but they're just,
She's just outsized.
yeah, the woman on the right won. I mean, she was just massive.
Wow.
Wendy's shredded to the bone, though. Look at her.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I
Those
think we
legs.
were 130, 138, 139, something like that on show day.
Wow. Oh, I love her pink suit. She looked beautiful.
Yeah. Now, she just not opened up all the way, or does she need to improve a little bit of the lat?
She's had a bunch. It's a long story, but I mean, she was, I don't know how much of it she would want me to share, but she was hit with, she's Russian, and she was in a shelling attack and has a bunch of shrapnel on her body.
Gotcha.
So she can't, she's basically out there with
Some limitations.
and that's Jamie. Anyway, I'm the old guy bodybuilding coach. All right, let's get some questions. Oh, I think that's Gator. Is that the guy that won the Masters? Gator's. I met Gator down there. He's the Gator won the over 60, the over 50. I think that's second in the 45 and like third in the 40. Gator was hilarious, man. He's an intense dude. He was fantastic. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Let's get some questions if we have any questions up.
We only have a couple. Let's we'll go back. This one isn't so much question, but Tina heard that Justin De La Rosa retired, and Tanya seemed to confirm. I think it was Tanya who confirmed that she heard that also. I heard also that yeah, and John Jewett actually announced that he's going to be retiring next season.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know John. I mean, what does John have left to prove? Really?
Right.
Well, I'm assuming they probably want to start a family too. I mean, him and his wife are both young.
Yeah, they're young. John's got a thriving business. He's a great coach. He's, very sharp at the business part of things. He's a very grounded, humble, hardworking guy. I'm sure he's ready for the next phase of his life. And really, he's, I would assume that he's taken his physique as far as he can possibly take. I mean, he's made the most of what he has.
Yeah.
Been on the Olympia stage.
That he wants to start a family. So, and his wife is there too. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, can't blame him at all.
yeah, let's get a bunch of little John De La Rosas running around. The world needs more of that.
John won the Tampa
those
last year,
genetics.
right?
Yeah.
John won the Tampa last year, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked a little undersized from how he typically shows up this year at Tampa.
Yeah, no, he wasn't as big as he was bigger at the Olympia last year.
Yeah, his quad looked a little flat.
A lot of the podcast world was prognosticating him in a top 3 finish, and it's kind of interesting to see. There's so many people who didn't show up the way everybody expected him to, and I think that no one was talking about Justin being in top 5, and then he just showed up and kicked some butt.
Right. Yeah, I thought I was expecting definitely more out of Justin Shier, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was.
Justin Shier just never seemed to can get it together. I don't know what happens. There are some guys, and this is always a thing, that look great in the gym, and it just doesn't translate to the stage. It's not any disrespect to him. I'm sure he's a great dude, and he's a big motherfucker, way more accomplished bodybuilder than I am. But I mean, these are the best.
Well, I think this is only his 5th show anyhow, ever. I think he went pro in 2 shows and then won Chicago. then Olympia, and then now here in Tampa. So, I mean, 5 shows is not a lot of.
No, not a lot of experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a whole different level. You know, he's just got to keep improving and improving to keep up with some of these guys. Some of these guys are just in 1 year, almost looks like they're improving by 2 years. You look at the kid Joey Palacio there that got 3rd. I think 2 years ago, he would have been, 215-pound kid.
And I don't want to, I'm not saying this to be disrespectful at all, but there are some dudes that, and I heard Chris Aceto talking about it, that just because of mindset, they talk themselves out of wins. They just lose their minds at the end of prep and do stupid shit and panic and get all nervous and can't sleep and do stupid stuff and don't listen to their coaches. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but it's just, you still need to be able to stay calm and perform at the end. And if you can't, that's a problem.
Yeah, I misspoke earlier. I meant to say Jordan when I was talking about, nobody was talking about him being.
Oh yeah, nobody was talking about Jordan. I thought Jordan had a shot, but you just don't know who's going to show up. But from everything I've heard, Jordan was just a high quality human being. I've heard he's a top-notch human being.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Yeah. So from Gamboni Law, is there a benefit to eating meat, poultry, or even fish that has a higher fat content, not adding fats with nut butters, assuming you're doing regular cardio, fish oils, and niacin?
Most proteins are going, unless you're eating salmon, most proteins are going to be high in saturated fat, and saturated fat really doesn't contribute much of anything to bodybuilding. It's just another energy source, and a shitty one at that. It's, I mean, you do need a little bit of saturated fat for bile production, but there's enough trace amount in the proteins that you eat usually to do that. But generally, the guys that are eating fatty meats never look good.
Yeah. I think like you said, Paul, there's just so much more to be gained nutritionally wise from keeping a balanced fatty acid profile, and getting it all from your meat sources. It would not be how I would recommend it, especially for someone who maybe is eating on a lower fat diet. I'd much rather see them getting in, some coconut or macadamia, even if it's a woman, some evening primrose, like some other oil sources that are going to have more benefit versus getting it all from saturated fat from chicken thigh or from a ribeye.
Yeah, and then there is the added also risk factor of being on PEDs, which are going to skew lipid metabolism in the wrong direction. And when you're eating a diet high in saturated fat, I see it all the time on consults. I do tons of consults with dudes that have jacked up lipids because they're, I always upset the dudes, but the guys that are eating more of a carnivore style of diet, slamming ribeyes and eating 8 whole eggs and sticks of butter during the day, and they end up with really, really terrible lipids. And I'm not saying that having skewed lipids is a guarantee of a cardiovascular event, but you are certainly increasing your risk. And I would, depending on what PEDs you're running, especially guys that love to run orals, which really smash your lipids, you're rolling the dice long term. I have done quite a few consults with guys that end up having blockages later on in life. It's might be fine today. 20 years down the road, you end up with a coronary artery blockage and dead. So it's like buying insurance. Why take the chance, right? I mean, you're costing yourself nothing by maintaining a healthy lipid profile. Like, guys get obsessed about it. Like, there's no guarantee that you're going to have a cardiovascular event or coronary artery blockage or cardiovascular disease from running high lipids. But it's that combination that happens when you're on PEDs, when you're eating a high diet, high saturated fat. You're taking PEDs that are going to skew your lipid profile and also cause water retention and skew your blood pressure in the wrong direction. And it's that combination of high blood pressure, poor lipid poor lipids and then running the PEDs on top of it, you really, if you look at most of the guys that die from bodybuilding, it's cardiovascular events. And most of the reason they die from cardiovascular events is because of unmanaged lipids and blood pressure. And if you could really manage your blood pressure effectively and manage your lipids, you can be pretty dumb with the PEDs and be okay. I don't know, Ryan, what do you think? You're in this deeper than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, I agree with that. There is something to be said for high lipids in certain contexts. High lipids. And
it's
even,
one factor.
Well, high lipids, being a function of metabolic flux, as opposed to necessarily like what we're afraid of when we talk about high, like bad cholesterol, right? And I don't even like to refer to it as bad cholesterol, like LDLs. I think it's LDLs are necessary, right? They carry cholesterol. They carry cholesterol for increased cellular, like all of our cells require when we're building muscle, right? To build more muscle cells, to increase those satellite cells, we need cholesterol to build all those cells. We need cholesterol for biles, as you said, Paul. So in a certain context, increased LDL could be is a function of metabolic flux. It's a function of our need mobilizing energy. VLDL, very low density lipoprotein.
Lipoprotein,
yeah. They carry triglycerides, and when we're actually breaking those down through hepatic lipase, they break down into LDL. So some of the LDL is a function of, again, this metabolic flux, change in energy. If we're using triglycerides for energy, especially like when we're on something like orals, right? We're really increasing the amount of energy demand because you're hypertrophying your muscle. A lot of the orals are 3 or more times more anabolic than just testosterone or some of the other injectables. So when we're hypertrophying our muscle cells that much, we're requiring that much more energy. So the high energy demand and some of the increased LDL could be a function of required energy, right? Of metabolic flux for a high energy demand. Now I agree. The fear is that the LDL will deposit in your arteries as atherosclerosis, right? So that's what you said when we're having blockages, right? So that's the fear. So, and you're right. It's a function of, okay, is this context more metabolic flux for energy demands, or are we actually depositing into our arteries for atherosclerosis? And that's the fear, and that's the kind of what you have to balance.
And that's Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to probably add on to Paul, what you were probably going to say about the glycation factor. I mean, that's really a huge part of, these plaques don't just form out of cholesterol. You have to have this sticky cell wall, so having unmanaged blood sugars and high cholesterol, which a lot of bodybuilders might do, especially in off season being, not insulin sensitive, they're getting a lot of glycation happening. And then that's going to actually be the problem, making their cell walls sticky. And that's more an issue than the actual cholesterol itself. So it is like a cascade of things that begin happening.
And high blood pressure, which damages the vascular wall. And then you end up laying down plaque as a part of the repair process, so it's all part of it. But high cholesterol by itself is not a risk factor, and it's not independent.
The blood pressure too, and you're absolutely right. So when we take a look at cardiovascular disease in general, from obesity, even it's still a function of high blood pressure that really causes the arteries closing, just like we said, from depositing too much plaque and atherosclerosis. The arteries closing, and it makes it harder for your heart to pump that around through a smaller hole. And it's
less flexible. It stiffens those walls.
In the long term, right, over 10 to 20 years of that's what causes cardiovascular disease from obesity. So the same thing can happen to bodybuilders. It may not even necessarily be the closing of the arteries, although it could be, as Paul said, but it's also more a function of the hormones are causing this water retention that forces pressure in the inside of our veins, and that high blood pressure is also could cause long-term cardiovascular disease.
Yeah,
So
it's
those are the
the
things we have to watch out for. It's the same thing with obesity or bodybuilders. We're looking for that blood pressure, and that's what we have to manage.
Yeah, it's the cascade of things like Amy was saying. It's uncontrolled. Well, it's, having poor glucose metabolism,
Mhm.
high blood pressure, and skewed lipids. And, with the cholesterol thing, like guys get concerned about, like I need cholesterol for growth and hormone production and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I've yet to see anybody deficient in LDL in their blood work.
Right.
They just don't exist.
It's rare if I see somebody, even in my context, if I see somebody with in range LDL, it's almost always high.
Yeah, no, it never. Like pretty much every bodybuilder blood panel I look at, I don't know what you see, Ryan, but they all sit somewhere between 100 and 150.
Even in my context, it's
almost always. The only thing I have seen pull it down below that is retatrutide.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I've seen pull it down below that. But anyway, I to me, like my thought process is having a diet in high and saturated fat from your meat sources really doesn't add a whole lot to your physique enhancement and just increases risk. So why do it?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my thought process. Get your fats elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Most people are deficient in EFAs, if anything.
Yeah, go for some fatty fish if you want to splurge on a fatty cut of something.
Yeah, eat a piece of salmon.
Yeah, or some sardines. Yeah.
I was going to say too, from a simple response, one benefit too is like measurement, like consistency. Like, I mean, I can measure consistently olive oil and nuts and nut butter, but I could go to the store and get Amy an 8-ounce fillet and myself an 8-ounce fillet, and the chances of them being the exact same fat content, if I'm being picky about my diet from a caloric standpoint, is going to be different. It's still going to vary. So I can be a little more on point by staying on the leaner side of proteins and then adding my healthier fats in rather than saturated fats.
Well, Justin says it all the time. They don't make chicken in a lab.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we got next for questions?
Well, this one was mostly answered in the comment section, but we'll still ask it. This is from Sebastian Day. Thoughts on a 45-year-old male with high estrogen, but no side effects, great energy, libido, and blood work?
That'd be one for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I see this a lot. And one of the reasons that we say is treat the symptoms or the side effects and not the numbers is because of situations like this. Now, like for instance, if your test was an immunoassay and it's cross-detecting estrone and estriol, then your number is going to be a lot higher than your real estradiol number. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different factors. Some people just really do well. Some people are high aromatizers, but they also do well on a little bit higher estrogen. So it's really not about this number. If you're not being affected let me clarify in the context of hormone replacement therapy. Like I do agree that in the bodybuilding context, just to let your estrogen run into the hundreds or 200 may not make sense, or it doesn't make sense, right? But in the hormone replacement therapy context, where we're talking about an estradiol that's high, or maybe 50, 60, 70, then, and if it's not affecting you, that could be just a couple of things. The estrogen should be in a certain balance with testosterone. They should be in a certain balance with each other. And B, it could be a function of a test, just not an inaccurate test. So that's why we go more based on feeling. Like, are you having symptoms of high estrogen? And if not, then if you feel good and you feel worse with an AI that gives you lower estrogen, then let your estrogen be where you feel your best.
Is there a level outside of the range though, Ryan, where someone says, I feel good, but you say, well, this number still, I can tell you, is too high for an estradiol?
Yeah. I mean, I would say if it went well into the hundreds, mm-hmm. and it would also be a contact, like it would also be a function of, okay, what happens when we get it lower? Do you still feel good? You say you feel good at when your estradiol is, 150, 180. Do you still feel good when it's just 80? And if so, let's just keep it at 80.
Yeah, makes sense.
The one thing I see that I don't think a lot of people consider, well, there is that sort of this thing now where guys are chasing that higher estrogen with the thought process that it somehow is protective of their health and increases their IGF-1 production and enhances their gains. I just have not seen that translate into practicality. Also, what I see is like when guys get really high estrogen, his water retention becomes a huge issue. And then a lot of times when I see guys in their off season have issues with high blood pressure, as we mentioned, it's probably the number one risk factor for cardiovascular disease. It's often just a matter of getting their estrogen down a little bit. You know, you're running that D-ball and DECA cycle, and your estradiol is a 250. You know, we pull it down into the 50s or 60s, and you lose 20 pounds of water. That's all that's been in your vascular system and subcutaneous, and just making your blood pressure go through the roof. But yeah, ultimately, I just go by how guys feel.
Yeah, I mean, like, and you're right, Paul. Like, if side effects are signs that there could be a problem if you let this go for too long, right?
Yep.
So if you're healthy, you will feel good. If you don't feel good, then you're not healthy and something's wrong, and we got to fix it. So despite you thinking that, okay, high estrogen is protective and I should keep it high, if that high estrogen you don't feel right, then that's a sign that there's something wrong and you got to fix it. Long term, you could run into a long-term adverse consequence.
Nick had a good follow-up question to the estrogen thing.
Yep, I had that one flagged. Isn't E2 cardioprotective if you aren't stepping on stage and you feel good at a higher E2 number?
To a certain degree, yes. It's going to improve. What estrogen does is help with lipid metabolism. That's really the cardioprotective part of it. But once again, I mean, there's a threshold for that. Like being at 50 versus 100, I don't really see any significant difference in lipids. But being at a 50 versus a 10, there is a pretty dramatic difference. Usually what I see is when guys smash their estrogen is HDL gets crushed is what happens. And then when estrogen goes up, HDL comes back up to a better place. But other than that, like there seems to be an upper limit of it. Like it's just you get past to a certain point where if your blood pressure is 140 over 90 because you're super water retentive, that's definitely not cardioprotective. You know, so there is that aspect of it too. So it's once again, it's subjective, and you know, we have to take that into consideration.
I would argue too that if you're a bodybuilder, you're probably already doing enough things to manage your lipids where you're not going to get any cardioprotective benefit from E2 that you're not getting somewhere else.
Yeah, you know, look, I don't think it's a wise idea. It's funny how bodybuilding's come full circle, man. And you remember, Ryan, in the early 2000s, everybody's like smash the AIs.
It was crazy. I used to see guys doing 1 milligram a day, and then they'd wonder why they felt like crap and they couldn't grow. They couldn't grow. Like I seen guys, and like before more dates came out, and they were talking about like all of this, the benefit of estrogen and everything. And you're right, guys were smashing their estrogen, you know, with the whole kind of concept that, well, estrogen's a female hormone, men don't need it, right? And guys were smashing it. And I was the one talking way back then, like, listen, you can't take that much AI. Like there's some anabolic properties to the estrogen, and you need some. And so I would take guys off of the anastrozole, and they'd suddenly grow. Like all of a sudden, you know, with a little bit of estrogen, they would actually grow.
Yeah. I mean, it is a, you know, something that you need to consider. And the whole IGF-1 thing, like everybody gets obsessed with the IGF-1 thing, being like serum IGF-1 doesn't have a whole lot to do with muscle growth. It's localized IGF-1 that matters. Now, granted, it is a measurement of how, you know, effective your growth hormone, et cetera, it is, but guys get obsessed with that. Usually the guys I see that are obsessed with that aren't growing from year to year. So I don't know how much I would take their advice into consideration.
It's like everything. It's like too little estrogen causes problems, too high estrogen causes problems. You need it, you know, at a moderate level that works the best for you. Right?
Yeah, and
They used
serum,
to tell us back then, you know, in 15, 16 years ago when I first started on HRT, and I went to, I think it was like Titan, the sponsor of the Tampa. It was like one of the old, you know, early adopters of TRT for people. They were like, they would give you a prescription for, you know, 1 milligram, sometimes daily or every other day for anastrozole along with your TRT. And that's just what they told us back then, you know?
No.
yeah, that's not great for your lipids. And
Yeah.
somebody mentioned endothelial function, but yeah, the elevation of serum IGF-1. There's you can look through the scientific literature. There's really no correlation between serum IGF-1 and muscle growth. Otherwise, you know, women that are pregnant have high serum IGF-1. They aren't blowing up and massive, and it's often related to growth of cancers and shit as well. So I don't know that running around with a high serum IGF-1 all the time is that great.
Serum IGF-1 is just not indicative of how much IGF-1 is actually being utilized. The IGF-1, there's a couple things. IGF-1, when you increase the IGF-1, you actually increase the receptors, so you start utilizing it faster. And then there's also a function of the IGF receptors on the outside of cells internalize and then translocated all the way to the nucleus. So a lot of the IGF-1 that you're using is actually inside the cell as opposed to in your serum. So the actual serum level isn't really indicative of how you're using IGF-1, how much you're using.
It's a number.
Yeah.
All I can say is look at the guys that are preaching this stuff, and are they getting bigger? I mean, to me, it really boils down to that. And estrogen affects IGF-1 by increasing liver production of binding proteins, which also can make IGF-1 ineffective as well. And high estrogen levels lead to more binding protein 1, causing IGF-1 to be bound and unable to be used by the cells. You know, so this results in higher IGF-1 levels that may not contribute to muscle growth. We just don't know. This is why women, like I said, especially during ovulation and pregnancy, will have high IGF-1 levels. We don't see jacked pregnant ladies walking around. So like the serum IGF-1 test is, you know, has some value and merit. You know, we do know that when we see that you know, it may indicate that the quality of the GH that we're using, but it may not too. Like when you're on a low carbohydrate diet, IGF-1 levels are going to be lower because insulin's going to be lower. I mean, there's just so many factors. It's just not a great way of, guys get obsessed with blood work and how that translates into muscle growth. And a lot of times it's, you know, all of these theories and complexities don't actually translate into results in the gym or on the stage.
All about localized IGF-1 being more involved in building muscle. I was just reading, I was trying to reason this out, reading about IGF-1 DES, which is a localized injection that you would do, you know, pre or post workout, versus like Increlux, which is systemic IGF-1, which is what everybody says is the only thing that works. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know much about the IGF-1, the exogenous stuff. I've never really used it, so not my area of expertise.
I mean, I've never used Increlex, but apparently that's the bioidentical version or natural version of IGF-1, where LR3 and DES are the synthetic version.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of the LR3. I mean, I think it's a good pre-workout, but I don't see myself growing any massively from it.
All right, so here's what I did my old ChatGPT search. Localized IGF-1 is produced within the muscle itself, primarily by the muscle fibers and satellite cells, and is the strongest factor in muscle growth, and is a result of mechanical stress like resistance training, and sometimes referred to as mechanical growth factor 1. It activates the satellite cells, enhances mTOR, reduces muscle breakdown, etc. We know all this stuff, but I would be curious to get Dr. Dean on and for him to talk about it. Like, I'm getting into biochemistry, which I'm not a fucking biochemist. You know, I'm probably out of my wheelhouse here. I would just say this. I'm a pragmatic guy, an Occam's razor guy, and guys that get obsessed with minutia, obsessed with comparing blood work from one week to the other, are almost never the dudes that grow or look better on stage. Like I feel like it's wasted effort. We know that you need some estrogen present. It's going to help. When your estrogen smashed, we know that on contest prep, you're not going to fucking grow. You feel miserable. You feel terrible. It's not great for your health. So you do need some estrogen. Running the estrogen extremes tend to be worse. When you run the estrogen through the roof, it's not great for you either. So the middle ground tends to be where the best results lie, in just my experience.
Yeah, it's really that Goldilocks zone. I mean, like you say, some people crush their estrogen. I don't know how you can train. I mean, I've crushed my estrogen by accident before, and it's miserable to try to train. And then if you have it way too high, you're doing nothing but retaining water and just get negative side effects. So work in that Goldilocks zone, find what works for you.
Might be also the reason why the guys that are running the high estrogen are the most emotional on social media. Ones that are raging over things that they probably shouldn't be raging over.
Well, like you always say, Paul, it's a lot of just worrying about the 1% or the 0.5% when you don't have the 95% buttoned down.
Yeah, to me, I get my blood work done 3 or 4 times a year. I just want to make sure I'm not fucking dying. That's my level of obsession with blood work. Maybe I'm too casual with it.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Ryan.
It's so complex, like you said. Like when you worry about the minutia is so complex. There's so much that we don't understand as humans, and it's still pretty ambiguous to all of us, the intricate biochemistry of everything. So then it comes down to the empirical data. Like, what do we see? What happens? What do we see happen? And what do we see happen, with subsets of the population? Most people respond well to this. Some people actually respond to this. And then there's a small subset that responds well to this. So it's about the empirical data. Like, what do we see works? And just like you said, Paul, if you're so focused on the minutia, on the complexity of the minutia, you're just going to bypass what's actually working, the empirical data.
Yeah. And I would see it all the time. And I managed I was CEO of an IT company for years, and I managed a team of engineers, and I had some really just highly intelligent, brilliant people working for me. And these guys would get hyper focused on shit that just didn't fucking matter. Engineering these overly complex problems for just simple, overly complex solutions for simple problems. Love him or hate him, I heard Elon Musk talking about it, like with engineering, like the big problem with engineers is they tend to want to overcomplicate things. And usually you have to tell engineers to take less steps out and make the process simple. And usually the simplest solutions tend to be the most effective ones. You want to pull out the complexity as much as you possibly can. And look, I love science and digging into the minutia of stuff. It's fun. It's interesting. It's cool. It's really, but a lot of times the dudes that are just obsessed with it, it ends up adding unnecessary complexity that doesn't really result into any extra benefit. You spend a lot of time wasted on this stuff that doesn't really have any positive effect on your results at all whatsoever. And you can see it. The guys that
try to break the monotony of what he's doing day in and day out by overcomplicating a problem. I think bodybuilding is pretty boring and monotonous, and you entertain yourself by drilling down into things that don't matter.
Oh yeah, it's way more, saying eat your chicken and rice, train hard, take basic PEDs, and get your rest and recovery. That's not very fun or entertaining. Going into the hour and 45-minute deep dive in cellular biology and genetics and how it factors into your IGF-1 levels and results in the gym, that's way more fun to listen to.
Yeah. So like specifically talking about IGF-1. So like when I ran my huge underground empire there, we were testing our HGH And back then there's no janishing. We couldn't send it to a lab. So we had to test it through blood serum. So I had all my patients, or I mean, my clients at the time, test for me. And I would, give them a little deal to, go take a blood test 3 hours after. And we realized after thousands of tests that their IGF serum levels weren't indicative of their HGH serum levels. And we had this HGH, we knew it was working on people because they were having results. Their HGH blood serum was reading in the 30s, and their IGF would stay right around, normal, 200 to 300. It didn't really increase. So we're like, what is going on here? Why is the IGF not increasing? And that's when you start diving deep and you realize that IGF serum is really not indicative of what your HGH is doing or how much IGF you actually are utilizing in your blood. So, I mean, there's one thing where I have empirical data that we've just aggregated through thousands of people to show that IGF serum is not indicative of.
Well, wasn't the story that Liver King was on 18 units of GH and his IGF-1 was like basically nothing?
It was average level. Yeah, it was 200. And he was on CJC 1295 and he was on an ungodly amount of HGH all at the same time. And his IGF was still normal level.
You know why that was? Because he wasn't eating any fucking carbs.
Oh, yeah.
There's no insulin production.
Yeah. I actually didn't think of that. But I've seen guys with HGH serum levels in the 30s and guys who were eating carbs and their HGH or their IGF serum was still not what you would expect it. Right? And
yeah, I mean, I'll see it all the time on contest prep. IGF-1 comes down on contest prep.
Yeah.
Usually what guys test it. I mean, it's just when you're in a caloric diet, you can take all the HGH in the world. Comes down. Anyway, yeah, sorry to get on a rant about IGF-1. I just think the moral of the story is don't get so obsessed with minutia. It's not really contributing a whole lot to your growth. All right, we have any other questions?
We do. We have a really quick one. This is a quick answer here from Todd. When doing HRT for perimenopausal women, how often is best for test injections? My girlfriend is doing 8 milligrams once a week. Would splitting that into 2 shots be better?
It's a great question. So one thing you won't read anywhere, but I've just seen through so much blood work is that women process testosterone cypionate anyways more slowly than men. So if you're using testosterone cypionate, usually 1 time a week for women is just fine. The half-life for women seems to be 1 to 2 weeks, as opposed to men, it's more like 2 to 4 days. So women can get away with 1 injection per week. However, I still recommend women do it twice per week. Even though sometimes I have women who compliance is an issue and twice per week would just be too much, but they can stomach doing an injection once a week. So then I'll say, okay, you can do it once a week and that's okay. But I prefer twice per week.
Awesome. All right. From Rise 41, we've got, how do you decide what class to compete in, generally speaking? Any quick guidelines? Also, can one compete in more than one category in a show, and how to strategize if so?
You can compete as many categories as you want. They want to take as much of your money as they can get.
Unless you're fit model, then you cannot cross categories.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, fit model, you can't. So if you do fit model in a show, that's the only thing you can do. You could do.
There was evidently a huge controversy at at USA's this year because nobody did that damn show where people were crossing, because the IFBB has a rule where there have to be 5 competitors in a class to qualify for a pro card, and so like people were entering classes that were low to help their friends out.
Yep. Yeah. Like you'll see that like a bikini competitor will be in a women's physique division. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say for, I know Gonzalo's doing his first show. I usually for first shows, I just tell guys to do 1 class. You're going to be stressed the fuck out. It's a stressful thing. Just go out there and have fun. I mean, if you want to do 2, you can do it. But definitely doing men's physique and classic is easy because you can just throw the shorts on over top of your trunks. But if you're crossing over from bodybuilding to classic and trunk changing backstage and having to go on right after, it can be stressful as fuck. You're going to be stressed out. I would just pick 1 and just do it. That's usually what I tell guys. I mean, some people, there's different opinions. I've heard other dudes say, you know, get as much practice being on stage as you possibly can. That would freak me the fuck out. That would stress me out even more, having to worry about not missing my call out, changing my shorts, doing a different posing routine. It's just more to think about, more to stress out about. You're going to be stressed out anyway going into a first show. I don't know. To me, I would just keep it simple and just do one class.
Well, as far as what category you should compete in, I mean, that has a lot to do with, you know, your posing abilities. You know, if there's certain things that are a struggle for you, you know, if you can't do a lat spread, then you probably don't want to be in bodybuilding. Or if you don't have a narrow waist, you don't want to be in you're not going to be competitive in classic. So, you know, finding a division that both suits your physique and your posing ability is probably, you know, the conversation I'd be having with my coach if I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'm going to rant a little bit about this because it's something that I see at local shows that really frustrates me. The last show where I did Fit Model, there was a woman who did bikini and figure, and she won both of them. And there were more than 5 people in each of those classes. And that to me, like, that just shouldn't happen. Like, I'm sorry, there should not be such a subtle difference in your physique that you can just pose it a little softer and win bikini and win figure. Mm-hmm. Like, that really bothers me. So, you know, I think you should go with the category that fits your physique the best, like Dave was saying, you know, and just really commit to that. You know, I think the people who are crossing over, like this woman who did bikini and figure, so what, like you got an extra trophy, like congratulations, what are you going to do now? Like, I think those people are just, they just want to collect trophies. That's how I see it. Like, if you're doing that, like you really just want to collect the trophies. Like, you're not really committed to any division.
It kind of frustrated me this is another little add on to this. Like at Masters Nationals, I saw some people win pro cards in multiple classes. Mm-hmm. You're taking away a pro card from somebody else when you do that. I'm like, if you get your pro card, just punch out. You know, that's kind of my thought process. And then like another thing too, like I see guys doing it, you know, and great on you if you can, but like I can see dipping down into the lower age group if you need, like at the Tampa, like they only did the Masters Olympia qualifier in the 40s. You had to win the 40 to the Master Olympia qualifier. So like if you needed to dip down to do that, that's fine. But I don't want the extra stress of going up on stage and doing multiple age divisions too. And the chances are, if you didn't win your age division, you're not going to win the lower one either. You know, if you're blowing everybody away, and you know, like you know, like my friend Gator down there, he won the 60s and then won the 50s, and you know that's fantastic, man. But most guys aren't going to do that. You're just going to place worse in the lower age classes, and you're going to feel shitty about yourself.
Not to mention, if you're competitive in one of your classes, like they're going to pose the hell out of you in that class.
Yeah.
At some point, you're going to wear yourself out and be less effective if you're trying to pose that hard and
glycogen out.
Be competitive. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm all in on one thing kind of guy. I can see, you know, like in the pros, like, you know, if you want to compete for that Masters qualification, I can certainly see that. But you don't see guys crossing classes in the pros at the same show. They do one class. That's usually only amateurs that do that.
I'm with Tina. Like, do as many age divisions as you want, but stick with the same category.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
you're just not going to be you're not going to be very good at the posing either. Like if you're trying to do classic and then men's physique and then bodybuilding, like all three, look, hey, if you're doing your first show and you want to kind of figure out which class you want to do and you're not sure, that could be a compelling reason to try different ones. I could see that, but usually I can look at somebody's physique and tell them what class they belong in.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, like, your coach should be able to give you some guidance there, or talk to a judge, like go to a local seminar, talk to the judges, like get some feedback prior. I mean, because you're just spending a lot of money if you're doing a lot of different classes at the same show.
Drew said he did. I placed first in the 50, second in the 45, third in the 35. Yeah, I've done it before. I did the I did a show where I did the 40, the 35, and the open. And I told myself after I did it, I'd never fucking do it again. It was too
Well, and if
much,
you're
man.
new too, like like he's saying, a novice and true novice. Like if you're brand new on stage and you got the chance to do novice and true novice, like yeah, get the experience.
I feel like the true novice is a money grab.
It is.
One time though, you can only do true novice
You want to do it
once.
once.
You can keep doing novice until you win, but you can
I
only do true novice
know
once.
plenty of people that have done true novice more than once.
Why would you want to? Like again, that's just the money grab. Like, why would you want to be up there with all the first timers? Like that's just
Yeah.
crazy.
I'm going to show up at the local show and do true novice next year. It's my warm up.
Looking for a bird on the ground, right? That
You could do a true novice show right now and probably win it. I think you
I don't
could
know about
sweep a
that.
show, a local show. Yeah, most likely.
Yeah,
I don't
just
know if you've been to many
run a
local shows
razor.
lately.
Run a razor over your back and get on stage.
Yeah.
I shaved myself down the other day. I was leaner than I thought I was.
Good.
I was like, oh, I'm not as fat as I thought.
Just hairy.
I lost 5% body fat just by shaving. Let's see what this is. I want to grab this one. This is another competing question. If I were to compete, what would I have to work on and steps to take to get very first stage of my life to begin? Obviously, hire Paul first. First shows, usually like I just want guys to know how to pose, kind of. I want guys to learn the process of getting in shape. Kind of learn the process of peaking. I don't do any diuretics or any crazy thing at the end with guys at first shows either. It's just the chances of you winning your first show are pretty much zero. So there's no reasons to go to extremes. It's basically we're setting you up for future success with the first show. It's the training wheels you're learning. This is another little pet peeve of mine. And I was talking with other coaches about it when I was down to Tampa. The way you get better at competing is competing. Like there's the opposite end of the spectrum. There's the guy that wants to do every class and every fucking show that he possibly can. That can be counterproductive too. But there's also the dude that wants to wait until he's. I was talking to a guy recently. It's like I don't want to compete in classic until I'm maxing out my weight class. And I'm like, dude, you realize that Terrence Ruffin was like 10 pounds below his weight cap.
Yeah.
Right. If you're maxing out, Wesley Vissers was under the weight cap. If you're maxing out the weight cap, you're a pro, likely.
You had this talk with me when we first met, Paul. I had the same thing. For years, I was just building and trying to get myself to the best me I could be before I stepped on stage. And you convinced me the best thing to do is just get on stage, get acclimated to it, get the mental approach to it, the routine to it. And it was, you were completely right. It was
what happened, Dave?
Well, the best progress I've had is by competing. At least
yeah. You get better.
I was going to add one thing too. Like if it's your first show, it is a good practice of kind of learning the mental approach to like, and also as a coach, like teaching that athlete the mental approach to a prep. And I mean it also in the way, like some people could either fall in love with bodybuilding on their first prep, or they can completely get turned off on their first prep. And I think that you can actually, if you manage expectations, you manage your approach, you learn like, yeah, you're probably not going to win your first show, right off the bat. Unless you're Jackie, but it just doesn't happen that way. So
there's like one in 1,000 people that win their first show.
Yeah, Jackie won her first 2 overalls.
She's a freak.
Yeah,
she's the one in a million.
I think we've all seen that too. I mean, a lot of people can get turned off to a sport.
I got 6 at my first show.
Yeah, same. I didn't even win the true novice. I got second to a guy that was 25 years older than me.
I got last fucking place in my first show.
Second and fourth for me. But
6 out of 6.
We all know though how big of a mental game, I guess, is what I'm trying to say bodybuilding can be. And if you don't know that going into your first prep, it's a real eye opener. So
yep.
I try to blunt that kind of hit from people when I'm walking them through their first prep, just like understanding expectations, the process, what it's like to be fat and flat and feel like, am I moving backwards or am I actually making progress? It can be a mental mind fuck, that's for sure.
That's a very good point, Dave, is the mental aspect of it, just getting yourself conditioned to that. Everybody talks about second preps being easier. I don't know that the actual stress is or the work is any easier. You're just you just know what to expect.
Yeah. Yep.
And the mentally you're just better prepared for it.
For sure.
People need a coach that can shut their brain off and trust the process.
We talked about it earlier. There were dudes at the fucking in the open at the Tampa that were fucking themselves up because they were second guessing themselves.
And I was surprised. Someone else had a good question here or comment about posing. I was surprised how many of the pros at the Tampa pros were struggling with things like shaking on stage. I saw a lot of leg shaking and arm shaking, and at that pro level, I was surprised to see as much of it as it was.
That's called
nobody in the top 5, obviously.
That's called too much diazide.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Been there, done that. I know that feeling. Or they didn't practice their posing. There were definitely dudes up there that the posing was not great. Even at the pro level. I think there are guys that I mean Andrew Jack, fuck dudes still can get second or third place and have terrible posing.
The worst poser ever.
My first show ever, the coach or the judge feedback was spend more time posing because you were shaking on stage. And I placed second in a field of 3, and I felt like I had a better physique than the guy who beat me. And even he said he was surprised that he beat me. But
And posing is a big part of it, for sure. I think that can separate you sometimes.
Oh yeah, I mean, they judge you what it's size, shape, or size, symmetry, presentation, conditioning is what they judge on. The criteria. Presentation is part of the criteria they judge on.
Yeah. Yeah, and these judges can't judge you off of your Instagram. I mean, it's the minute that you're on stage. It's the comparisons that you're on stage. It's that time. They kind of have blinders on. They can only see you for that period of time. So you better present well. So yeah, for a first timer, that's good advice you had, Paul. Was working. That's definitely a mistake I made, was not working on my posing as much as I could have.
spend as much time working on your stage presentation as you do your Instagram presentation, and you'll do better.
Yeah, I mean I don't see much vacuum these days either. No, somebody was asking about vacuums. Oh, there are plenty of dudes doing vacuums. Just watching the classic. I mean, it's standard in the classic. I have mixed feelings about the vacuum. I feel like if you have great ab development, the vacuum is doing you a disservice. If you're a guy that has a wider waist and doesn't have great ab development, then the vacuum can be beneficial. So you really, I mean, I would work with a good posing coach, but like with me, like I have really good, strong abs. Like I don't want to hide those. That's something that separates me from the other competition. While the other guys posing a vacuum, I'm crunching down on my abs and showing off my ab development. So you want to really, it works out to this with posing. You want to hide your flaws and show off your strengths. So you really have to tailor your posing to that. And then also a lot of the big open guys, they just can't fucking pull a vacuum. Their guts are too big. It's just, they just can't do it.
Well, I don't disagree, Paul, but I think that being able to manage what your gut is doing on stage, like vacuum training, is a big part of that.
Oh yeah, clearly.
And I didn't start vacuum training when I did because I wanted to be able to pull a CBum vacuum. I did it because I didn't want to be one of these old guys with these blown out guts, right? And have this beautiful looking sex pack setting over a big round bowl of gut. So,
well, that's exactly why you nailed it. That's exactly why I've been working massively on my gut control and pulling vacuums. I can pull a really good vacuum. I would never do it because I got a little excess skin, and it shows a lot more when I pull that vacuum right under the belly button. But yeah, for gut control during your transitions and just setting up your shots and feeling more comfortable in your shots and just breathing control, there's a lot of benefits to practicing that vacuum as well, whether you use it in your shots or not.
Yeah, my vacuum is kind of ugly too, but I was pretty proud of the fact that I could pull one.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. I think we should wrap this up. I rambled way too much today. Sorry, guys. I feel like I talked too much.
No, your rambles are great.
Some people like them. All right, folks. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for your support. We will see you on the next episode next week.